What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today is episode 1 of my new mini-series, The Quest for the Perfect Folding Knife. Now, this is essentially it's a mini-series based on this conversation I had with my best friend about the ritual that I have or that I go through before I select a new pocket knife for myself. There are certain things that I look for in each one of these categories: ergonomics, materials, blade shape, deployment and manipulation, lock type, and aesthetics or X factor, meaning the indescribable qualities that attract you to a pocket knife. Now, for that reason, or because that is a category and that all these categories are subject to different people's opinions, I want you guys to keep in mind while I go over these in individual episodes, these are just my personal opinions, what I look for a pocket knife for myself. The idea is not to force you to think exactly like me. The idea, hopefully, is that somebody new to this world, looking to find a folding knife that suits their needs well, can apply my thought process for each of these categories to themselves, and they're, thus creating their own process or own ritual before they select a knife. Maybe it's just one knife forever, or maybe they get into the hobby and they're like me or some of you guys who have a whole bunch of knives for no other reason than just the fact that we like them. But that's essentially what I'm doing here, so I kind of wanted to fill you guys in. Yeah, I could have typed this out, but I love displaying my penmanship. Not really, but you guys, you always seem to joke about that every time I write something down on paper. So anyways, episode 1, this is going to be ergonomics. Now, I'm dividing these up because if I did them all in one video, we would be left with an hour-long video, and you guys would not want to sit through that. So the goal of this is to keep them between 10 and 15 minutes. So, if they're shorter, they're shorter. Whatever, we're going to try. So ergonomics, and you guys know that I am a fan of the forward choil. You can see there, the Rick Hinder forward choil is a perfect example of what I like ergonomically. I enjoy that lock-in position. Of course, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 also has a nice forward choil. That's a good example. The Mannix 2. I love the choil on the Mannix 2. Very similar ergonomically to the Rick Hinder XM18. You can see how those lines all meet up. Another great example of something that I find attractive in ergonomics is contouring. You can see there we've got semi-contoured handles on the Spyderco Shaman, and ergonomically I think a lot of people will agree that's a very attractive thing. The Hogue Ritter, or the Hogue RSK MK1, has excellent ergonomics that are partially due to the semi-contouring of the scales. So these are all knives that have excellent examples of ergonomics in my book. Now, one of these knives actually has an example of something that I don't like, and I'm going to try and give examples of things that I don't like. A lot of the examples I'm going to use for things I do like will involve these knives right here in front of you. So you're going to see them a lot on these episodes, but I want to give examples of things that I do and don't like. What I don't like is blockiness or wasted real estate. Now, I love the Rat 2. I'm sorry, the Rat 1. I love the Rat 2 as well. I love it. I don't like that we have this odd and uncomfortable flat area right here that could have served for potentially more blade or a choil. You can still get your hand there, but you run the risk of running your finger up on the blade. What I prefer is a choil that keeps your finger away from the blade. Now, you guys are going to be surprised. I'm actually going to use the Hinder as an example of a choil that I think could be better. The choil here, it fits my finger, but I'm still running the risk of coming up on the blade. On the Mannix 2, you have a little bit of a nub there. You can see that. That nub is going to keep your finger from riding up on the blade, along with the jimping right there. I think one of the best examples is actually the Shaman. You can choke right up there on that blade. Now, the reason that I want a choil, or the reason I like choils so much, is because probably the heaviest task that I do with a knife is breaking down thick cardboard boxes. When you're making repeated cuts into cardboard and bearing down hard into a knife, for me, I find that the best hand position is choked up, straight down where I can get that material right up against my finger, because the majority of the pressure, the closer that it is to your finger, the more power you're able to put into it. So what's really important to me is a very comfortable handle and an extreme choke up position. So the combination of a smooth chamfered handle and a great choke up position where I am not forced I'm not in a position where I risk running my finger up on the blade is ideal to me. So I love the Mannix 2. Mannix 2 scales that it comes with, they're a little bit blocky, a little bit. Squeezing down really, really hard, I find that over time, I kind of have things poking into my hands and it gets a little bit uncomfortable. The Paramilitary 2, it's a little bit blocky. So this is something that is comfortable, but I might avoid. The Hinderer, fantastic knife, but when it's used like that, the blade geometry on this is a little bit thick, and we'll talk about that more in blade shape. But again, kind of blocky. You've got a lot of aggressive jimping there, and I love these knives, and they're some of the best examples ergonomically. But neither of them, none of those, I think, compare ergonomically to these two right here. Now, the only reason the Hogue Ritter is not, in perfect contest with the Shaman is because it lacks that forward choil that I like. But this is an excellent example of a comfortable handle to me, where there's nothing, pinching into my hands or creating hot spots over time. Having to cut thick cardboard, you'll find out real quick doing that whether or not a knife ergonomically fits your needs. So, do I think that the Shaman is perfect? I don't think that it's perfect, because here's an example of ergonomically something that I think that the Ritter has over the Shaman. This ramp here. My finger, when it rests on the spine of the blade, oftentimes in this position, it may not be while I'm cutting boxes, but there are situations where my hand naturally falls into that position. And I find that it's a better traction point for my thumb when it's pushing forward into a slight ramp. And that's what I really, really enjoy ergonomically about the Ritter Griptilian. Now, I would love it if I could put my finger up here like this. A knife that does a great job of that is the Spyderco Mannix 2. This knife right here, this position, is the perfect choke-up position. If you could combine that or the same choke-up position that I have right here on the PM2 to the Shaman, boy, we would have an absolute ergonomic masterpiece. I also like that I don't have unnecessary jimping down here. The shape of the handle will lock your hand in enough without excess jimping if it's shaped correctly. These lines and curves, they fit my hand well, so I don't feel any risk of dropping the knife, just due to that right there. Being able to lock in and wrap up. You can see that curvature right there, right here as it comes back around. It's kind of the same thing. It's just not quite as aggressive as how it is on the Mannix, but I'm locked in here. Give me a ramp right there, and this thing is not coming out of my hand. Ergonomically, that is what I look for. Some other examples of things that I don't like are knives that force my fingers into a specific position. Now, I haven't reviewed this knife yet, but the Kalashnikov, a lot of people like it, and I'm not going to say it's uncomfortable to hold. But I can't say that I like that my fingers have to go in this position. When you're choked up on a knife, if you've got enough room in the choil, you can move around a little bit. But up here, you're kind of forced into position. But down here, I feel like I've got a little bit of freedom to put my fingers more where I want them, A little bit less on knives like the PM2, kind of about the same feeling. The pointier things are, and the more pronounced a curvature is in the handle of a knife, the less freedom you have to put your hands where you want to. The Ritter grip is a great example because I just feel like I have so much freedom to put my hands where I want. I do not want to be in a situation where I have to put my hands right here, because sometimes a slight adjustment on the handle while you're cutting can really be the difference between whether or not you stop doing what you're doing or continue to do it. There have been many situations in my life where I cut cardboard for more than 30 minutes, especially if I let boxes pile up in my basement and then eventually it's like, hey, it's time to break them down and take them outside. So having to do that for 30 minutes or even an hour, like I said, ergonomics and hand comfort become extremely important. And these are qualities that apply to a lot more things than just breaking down cardboard boxes. Absolutely. These are, any continuous cutting tasks that any person might have. That those tasks will benefit from really, really good ergonomics. I think all of these knives on the table in front of you are really some of the best examples of good ergonomics out there. Now, there are lots and lots of other knives, but I've ended up with these knives because of their ergonomics. I enjoy the Rat, but it's flawed. The Rickhinder XM18 is probably my favorite pocket knife of all time, but do I think it's perfect? No. None of these knives are perfect, but before I end this video, I want to use these knives to drive my point home. All of these knives on the table, I think collectively have helped me come up with the idea of what I would consider to be the perfect pocket knife. And I've ended up with these knives because I love chasing this idea that eventually, one day the ultimate folding knife will present itself to me, and I'll buy it, and that'll be it. And it's that's a double-edged sword, excuse the pun, because that would mean that I would have no other purpose or drive to continue to collect folding knives other than just, oh, that looks kind of neat, maybe I'll buy it. But truthfully, my obsession with this hobby and my interest in it is all based around this idea that there technically exists a form of folding knife that is absolutely ideal for not only my hand, but any specific task that I could come in contact with. Is sort of a universal, like all the way around, something that I could carry every single day for the rest of my life and never need anything else. And all of these knives before you actually would serve that purpose well, but I don't think any of them are perfect. I think perfection exists within these 6 knives, and we're going to explore that as we go through these different categories and episodes. But at the end of it, I might be able to explain, at least ideally, what my ultimate folding knife might look like. But that's what makes this fun. It's the quest, it's the journey, it's the process of, slowly discovering new things and finding new knives and new, blade shapes, locking mechanisms, means of deployment and manipulation that my hands gravitate towards, like, naturally, that my hand wants to be a part of. The more a knife feels like an extension of your arm or your body, the better it is. But if it fits within all of the parameters that you have sort of come up with for yourself, then it is the perfect knife for you. So again, guys, keep that in mind. These are just my opinions on what's right for me. It may not be exactly the same for you, but that's going to be pretty much it here for ergonomics. We will talk more about, some things are going to be transitional. Some of these categories are going to transition into other things. I know, of course, there are other things to consider when talking about ergonomics, but I have to try and keep each one of these topics focused on just that, and then I'll kind of hybridize things when it's necessary. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this first episode here of ergonomics. If you did, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that I either do or don't like, that are either expensive or inexpensive, so check that stuff out. And if you enjoy all my content, then feel free to subscribe to my channel, because there is definitely more coming. Expect to see, I don't know if I said this or not, expect this series to be a Sunday thing. I've been trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do on Sundays, and this mini-series seems like a good placeholder for the time being. So expect to see each new episode on Sundays. So thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you next Sunday. Have a great day.